Well, welcome back to Reality in Albuquerque. We're continuing on part 3 of our dating series. And as promised, tonight we're going to talk about purity, dating with purity. So we talked about dating in the spiritual sense, and basically saying in our first couple of videos that dating is a spiritual thing. And if we lose sight of that heavenly connection, then this earthly connection, this horizontal connection, it breaks down. It breaks down without that vertical connection to where our love comes from. You know, key verse probably being that we love because He first loved us. Right? So whenever we lose that connection, this connection breaks down, it deteriorates. And then we talked about relationships and dating in the view of connecting with each other. And then, basically saying, how a guy needs to build up a girl and how a girl needs to build up a guy, or women and men. And we talked about, when it's appropriate to date and when it's not appropriate to date. Some kind of guidelines you can give yourself to avoid a lot of hassle. And there's a lot of biblical principles behind that. We talked about the fact that the only premise that the Bible gives for dating is arranged marriages, and that everything else is just we're just trying to make do. Since that's not the culture we live in anymore. We don't live inside of our culture with arranged marriages. So we have to come up with something else. We've come up with dating. Some people call it courting. It's a type of dating. You can call it whatever you want. Basically, we know that we're making it up. But the Bible gives us such clear instructions on how to go about things. So hopefully you've been able to take a look at a couple things here with the spiritual connection that has to be involved for this romantic connection to work, and just talking about the kind of the disciplines that need to be in place for it to be a healthy relationship. We talked about how you need to build each other up and things like that. So today I want to talk specifically about purity. Big topic, hot topic, a lot of books sold about purity and in sex and relationships and dating in general. I mean, it's a best-selling topic. Shoot, I even want to write a book about it myself someday. I mean, it's a good top-selling, it sells well, we'll say that. But I think it's an important topic. I think that's why there's so much information. That's why there's so many books written about it, because it is important. But a lot of people like to shy away from the issue of purity. And I'm not a shy person, so we're not going to do that. Now, we take a lot of things lightly that we should not. I think we can all agree with that. There are times when we just joke about things that we just shouldn't. There are things that hurt us, and we joke about them. And we laugh about things that really make us angry, but we just laugh it off. And we dance to songs that make us sad. And honestly, it's all part of human nature. It's all part of human nature. We like to take the deep, passionate reality of things that are around us, and we like to dull it down to a point where we feel like we can manage it, feel like we can control it. We basically, to put it in another image, we like to take the full experience of life and break it down into a manageable sitcom. We dull it down to that. Life becomes a TV show. Because we can manage that, right? Well, today I'm going to talk about sex. I'm going to talk about sex and sexuality and pornography and masturbation and the like. And frankly, if you're uncomfortable with just those words, this probably isn't the video for you to watch. But if you have kids, or you're in a relationship, or you ever plan on being in a relationship, this is a video you need to watch. Now, it's not my intention to be shocking. It's not. Happens without me trying, so that's not my intention. But I do have every intention of being genuine and to face the reality that is around us in our world today. So I'm not going to back down from the topics. Now, I personally, I've heard excuses for why sex outside of marriage is okay my entire life. Right? You couldn't come up to me and just impress me with some new view on why sex outside of marriage is okay. I've heard it all. And I'm going to break it down just for simplicity's sake to two views. Okay? One, it's not that big of a deal. Who cares? Or two, well, how could you spend your life with someone that you haven't had sex with yet? It's just too big of a risk. Right? Those are the two most common views on why sex is okay, or maybe even a necessity outside of marriage. Right? You've heard them. I've heard them. They're the issues that are out there. Now, I'll tell you, in person, I have a lot of patience with people who say that to me. I've listened to thoughts like that myself in the past. But whenever I'm not in person, when there's not a person just sitting right there, and I look at those thoughts, those statements, they make me livid. I gotta tell you, like, livid, angry whenever I hear those statements. Why? Well, I want you to imagine something for me, okay? I want you to imagine something that you are passionate about. It could be work, or it could be a hobby, or it could be an organization, maybe your faith itself. It could be a school of thought, or maybe a movement that you're involved with. Now, I want you to take whatever it is, get a picture of that in your head, and I want you to take this thing that you're passionate about and imagine it as an oil painting, okay? Imagine it as this beautiful oil on canvas. It's just a glorious masterpiece of a painting, and I want you to put it up on a wall, and whoever looks at this painting, this thing that you're passionate about, they should be filled with the same passion that you feel whenever you see it. Now, someone hangs up a copy of your painting next to your painting. Only this copy has been done with crayons, and it's on printer paper, and it looks like a small child, a little 3-year-old kid, did the copy with these crayons. And they didn't even do it excitedly. They just did it half-heartedly. A little half-hearted ADD little 3-year-old made a copy of your glorious masterpiece on little printer paper with crayons. And for me, just seeing them together, it kind of bugs you. Now next, somebody puts price tags on the two paintings. And they put the same price on the price tags. Now, of course, you see this, and you're completely outraged, and you ask, why in the world are you putting the same price tag on both of these? And the response is, well, they're the same thing. Now, hopefully, just that little mental image kind of makes you angry, makes you a little bit upset, a little outraged. So, now, with that mental image in mind, I want us to take a quick moment, and we're going to paint a picture of the biblical view of sex. So in Genesis chapter 2, verse 24, it says that the two will become one flesh. Now, it doesn't take any theologian or great scholar or interpretation to realize that this is talking about sex. Okay, now hopefully you get that, just the verbiage. But what I want us to focus on is the word one. Right? The two will become one flesh. There's another place in the Old Testament that uses the same Hebrew word for one. It's in Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 4. Now, most of us are very familiar with Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 5, which is the greatest commandment, right? Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength. The verse before this, though, verse 4, says, listen, children of God. The Lord, who is your God, the Lord is one. That same word, one. Now this is the ultimate sense of unity. This is union in the deepest, most intimate, personal sense possible. We look through Scripture and we can see, like in the book of Hosea and in Ephesians chapter 5, verse 32, we see that marriage, the union of a man and a woman, is used time and time again as a metaphor of the relationship between God and His church. The relationship that God has and wants to have with us. And we look at this union, and we look at it in relation to God back in Deuteronomy, and we can see that this union demands love with our heart and with our soul, our very being, and with our strength. Now, this picture of unity, inside of this picture, sex becomes the perfect image of two people bonding and becoming as deeply and personally connected as possible with a love that involves their hearts and their very souls as well as their passion. It is a heart-breakingly gorgeous picture. Now take that picture and grab it and rip it right out of the frame, and you would take that crumpled image in your hand and just toss it away. And then try to replace it with that cheap crayon drawing that you're not even quite sure what it's of. Now, I'll tell you this, I'm not a romantic because I hope for what rarely is. I am a realist because I know how things should be, and I simply refuse to settle for a cheap copy. Now, the cheapening of sex starts way before getting under the sheets. Okay, it starts with the music you listen to. Did you know that almost all pornographic addiction is precipitated by frequently listening to sex-charged music? There is, of course, pornography itself, which is possibly the greatest cheapening of sex ever. We make out and we sleep around with the people we're dating, even in high school. Goodness gracious, there are pregnant middle school girls all over the state. We lust after images on TV and in magazines. And I ask you this. How do you claim not to understand homosexuality when you yourself struggle with vanity and connecting and being sought after by people of your same gender? And you claim you don't understand homosexuality. Now we are a blind, vacuous country that has so cheapened beauty that we cling onto and we grasp onto shadows, believing that they can lift us up and inspire us because we have no clue how incredible real beauty is. Masturbation, pornography, lewd behavior, sleeping around, self-love, homosexuality, all of it is just normalized or even praised. Our ideas of human dignity, the value of purity, the glory of sex within a God-blessed union are so depreciated that we settle for what's fool's gold. Proverbs 26 verse 11 puts it this way, very poignantly. As a dog returns to its vomit, so fools repeat their folly. As a dog returns to its vomit, so fools repeat their folly. So when you date, you're going to date, you can say that sexual purity is just not a big deal. And you can shortchange yourself. And you can ask, well, how do you know you want to marry someone if you haven't had sex? And you can shortchange that person. In either case, you've cheapened your experience and you've cheapened each other. Or you can choose to embrace the full, rich romance that God intended for you to experience. 1 Timothy chapter 5 tells us to treat one another as brothers and sisters with absolute purity. You owe it to each other. You owe it to yourselves to experience life and love with the passion and the reverence it was intended to have. And that's all I have to say about purity.